Welcome to the blackawakening.com. I'm your host, spiritual practitioner, 322 Peppy Black Sun. Today we're going to discuss where are the missing indigenous black women across this nation. Got more reports of women disappearing. So I got a couple of videos where you have eyewitness testimony to what's happening to these indigenous black women. Let's examine this. In 2017, 14 young black girls went missing, vanished without a trace in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area on the same day. And that didn't make national news? Is that on black media? It's our job, our duty, to give a voice to the voiceless and find our people. According to the Black Missing Foundation, the FBI has reported a total of 230,302 missing black people in 2018. We're now in 2023. Since that time, the number has dramatically increased. According to the Black Women's Justice Institute, 2 out of every 5 black women will be assaulted or stalked by an intimate partner in a lifetime. 1 in 5 black women will be physically assaulted in their lifetime. They say black women are 2 times more likely to be shot by an intimate partner, 3 times more likely to be fatally shot and killed by an intimate partner versus other ethnicities. This is unacceptable, people. We need to be looking out for our own people. Understand this. Protect our own people. Understanding that you have people that prey upon the black woman. You see, understanding that the enemies of indigenous people, understanding that to attack the unity is to attack the family, and understanding that the black woman is the nucleus of the unity of the family. That's why the black woman should be protected by all means necessary in these streets. Understand this.
The harrowing account of a woman in Kansas City, Missouri, who was taken captive and then eventually escaped, is once again raising questions of how cases of missing black women are handled by authorities and by the media. Amna Nawaz has our conversation.
On October 7th, a 22-year-old black woman escaped from a home outside Kansas City. She had a collar and a lock around her neck, and she told police she'd been kidnapped a month earlier, held captive, raped, and tortured by a man. The woman, identified as TJ in court documents, also said the man killed 2 other women. The suspect has been identified as Timothy Haslett Jr., a 39-year-old white man. He now faces charges of kidnapping, rape, and assault. All of this follows concerns raised in September by black residents in Kansas City that a serial killer was targeting black women. Police back then dismissed those claims, saying in a statement, quote, "This claim is completely unfounded. There is no basis to support this rumor." Joining me for more on all of this is Natalie Wilson. She's the co-founder and COO of the Black and Missing Foundation. Natalie Wilson, welcome to the NewsHour. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So your foundation works to call attention and to support searches for missing black people. When you first heard the story of this Kansas City woman and the initial police response, what did you think?
Well, when we first heard about this story, we were very angry, but we weren't surprised because we had already seen something like this before, that cases of color for missing people are not taken seriously. And sadly, we believe that race and income level and their zip code are often barriers to law enforcement resources. So our women and girls, they're not seen as victims and they're often adultified. So we weren't surprised by this story at all.
What do you mean by that when you say that your women and girls often aren't seen as victims? Tell me about the police response that you've seen in other cases you've worked with.
Well, what we see is that oftentimes when a child or a young woman is reported missing, she's classified as a runaway. And if you're classified as a runaway, you do not receive the Amber Alert or any type of media coverage at all. And the perception is that these young ladies are promiscuous, they are, deviant, they have some type of deviant behavior, and their lives don't matter. Most recently, we had a case out of Fort Worth, Texas, and a mother whose daughter was missing, she went to law enforcement and the officer said, how do you know that your daughter is not laid up with some man? And how disheartening and disrespectful is that? So what we believe that these law enforcement officers need better training and they need sensitivity training because these, again, are missing valuable members of our community.
We should point out, Natalie, that the Kansas City Police said that they didn't have official missing person reports in many of these cases, but that they investigate them when they're given those cases. I mean, we should point out that they try to share information on their Twitter page when they do have missing person reports filed. But Natalie, what should we understand about the process of even going to law enforcement and filing a missing person report? Is the bar too high?
Well, what we need to do is peel back the layers. Are officers really conducting a thorough investigation, or are they allowing their biases to cloud the case? In some instances, officers aren't even taking a police report. Many jurisdictions have a waiting period, but officers are saying to these families, go back home. And you have to wait 24, 48, sometimes 72 hours. And in some jurisdictions, that is not the truth. That is a myth that you have to wait a certain period of time.
What about how we in the news media cover these stories or choose to pay attention to these stories? We should point out in this case, it was a Black nonprofit news outlet, the Kansas City Defender, that first raised these concerns from the community. What should we understand about the news media's role in this?
Well, media coverage, media exposure is so vital in many of these cases. And again, if the community isn't aware that someone is missing, then they're not vigilant in looking for them. But there's power in media coverage because, one, it puts pressure on law enforcement to add resources to the case. But for media outlets, they can't wait until the story goes viral. Help those cases to get that exposure, whether it's national or local exposure, because it's so vital and needed.
Natalie, what needs to change? I mean, I'm compelled here to remind people back in 2004, the late Gwen Ifill coined the phrase missing white woman syndrome about the disproportionate attention paid to the cases of missing white women as opposed to women of color. We're still having this conversation today. What needs to change?
Well, we need to look at policies, how we're classifying, or law enforcement is classifying these cases. Again, runaways. If you see a flyer that says runaway or missing, which one would propel you to act? When I was growing up, there was the milk carton. Well, now social media is our digital milk carton, and we need the community to get involved and just don't dismiss the flyer because you don't know that missing individual. Share it within your network and help it to go viral.
That is Natalie Wilson, co-founder and COO of the Black and Missing Foundation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
A scary moment for a woman entering her apartment when a man tried to force his way in. He wasn't successful, but Amber Cogliano says the woman is sharing video of the moment in hopes of teaching other people ways to stay safe.
A terrifying moment. A panicked woman is desperately trying to get into her apartment before it's too late. A creep bolts down the hallway, coming right for her. She escapes with a second to spare.
Hey, yo, Mitch.
The drama unfolded at 2 in the morning when the woman arrived home from a long day at work. She says she noticed the stranger lurking outside her building in the Bronx, New York. You can see him go up the stairs. She's apparently unaware that he's right behind her. Once inside, the suspect takes off after her. She gets inside in the nick of time.
Open up the door. Excuse me. Excuse me.
The lucky woman with the red hair and her family are so terrified today, they did not want their faces shown.
At this point, she wouldn't want to go outside to work or anything because she's scared this will happen again.
Can you believe the doors to the building were unlocked that night and remained so when Inside Edition was there?
It's the moment of vulnerability we face every day. You're outside your home, your keys are in your hand, you're about to open the door, anything can happen.
Security expert Manny Gomez offered some important safety tips.
This is an alarm. It could save your life. It's very easy to use. You just pull it.
Oh, that's loud.
That's right. It's loud. It'll act as a deterrent.
Old-fashioned pepper spray I see you have.
Old-fashioned pepper spray as well. It's been around for decades, and it works really well. You just flip the cap and put it into somebody's eyes. That person will immediately have a negative burning sensation reaction, and it'll give you time to escape and evade that assailant.
He also showed me a self-defense technique.
You could grab and knee to the groin, fingers to the eyes, chop to the throat.
Hopefully you will never find yourself in a crisis like this.
Hey, yo, Rich.
The woman says her guard is now up. Her family is keeping a close eye on her whenever she does leave the apartment.
Understanding there's different kinds of nefarious groups that detest indigenous people in this nation, that's preying upon the black woman and child, want to traffic the black woman and child and man. Understanding this nation was built upon trafficking people. Never forget that. Okay? You have a story of a guy in Florida who was trying to traffic indigenous black women. And understand this, indigenous black woman, when you out in these streets, you have to be very vigilant, be very mindful of your surroundings. Don't put yourself in situations you can't get out of. Don't be trusting these people and understanding when you're outside your circle of people that you trust. Understanding that trust is not given, trust is earned. Keep them principles and apply them. A stranger have to earn trust. You don't give a stranger your trust. Okay? It may leave you open to be victimized. So be very cognizant of your surroundings and who you spending time with or who you invite in your circles. When you out shopping in the different areas, you need to be very vigilant, looking for things. I'll give you a few examples. Like when these groups are targeting women, but I'm going to speak about the indigenous black woman first. When they're targeting our indigenous black women, they may put ties on your door handles. If you see a twisty tie on your doorknob or a bottle wedged in your wheel well of your tire, tissue jammed in your door handle, you don't touch these things. You alert somebody, authorities, police, someone to come investigate with you. Never touch these things because they be lacing these things with fentanyl or some type of substance to make you pass out, and then the person that's stalking you is near. Understand this. They have a story of a young black woman that was out in a nice restaurant, actually is with her husband, and someone was following her because I believe they may have went in separate vehicles, but they tagged her vehicle with some drug substance on a tissue and wedged it inside her door handle. And the lady just, go to grab that tissue. And when she touch it, she blacks out momentarily. But someone was there to catch her and then rushed her to the hospital, right? And Come to find out, if no one was there, she'd probably been easily abducted. You see, this is what they do when you out and about. You gotta be very vigilant of what you're doing in the streets, especially when you shopping with your kids and you just going about your daily errands or whatever you're doing. Understanding that someone is probably watching you, so just keep mindful that someone potentially could be watching you or following you. So you don't want to be predictable or in the routine. You want to switch it up. Keep that in mind. Work in pairs. Do your things during the daylight hours if you can, possibly can. Have a means of defense. And understanding that people that's preying upon our indigenous black women, I'm gonna give you a homework assignment. I want you to watch this movie called Antebellum. In this movie Antebellum, to depict that some of the things that these groups be doing to our people. Watch that movie Antebellum. Okay?
What was supposed to have been a quick trip to the store turned into the nightmare Jamie Coots could not break free from.
So I was walking and I could feel about 2 feet behind me that someone was there. And so I actually just stepped off the path to let them pass, but they didn't.
That's when Coots pulled out her cell phone and began recording the man seen here in this video walking only a few feet behind her. All of this happening early Wednesday evening at around 5:30 in downtown Vancouver in the areas of Chinatown and Tinseltown.
No, he looked right in the camera multiple times. He didn't care at all.
Coots says she was followed for several blocks around and around the neighborhood.
Hey, do you mind if I sit with you guys? This guy's literally been following me in circles for like 40 minutes and I've been recording it.
Eventually, she made her way to the skate park near Union Street, where there was safety in numbers. Her apparent stalker backing off once questioned by someone else at the park. The incident has Coots on edge.
I live in a small neighborhood where I run all my errands. I spend a lot of time at home because of COVID, and so when I get to outside to breathe fresh air and go for a walk, I really enjoy that time. I've heard from people that he's been seen in this area quite a bit, so I'm positive I will run into him again.
Vancouver police are now investigating.
We will look for other incidents that may have been reported to either the Vancouver Police Department or other police agencies to determine whether or not there are links.
As there are concerns this could happen again.
It's pretty sad because this happens to a lot of women.
It's why Coots decided not to remain silent.
This man, 61-year-old James Brink, is in police custody this morning, accused of abducting a teenager. He was captured in Kentucky after his alleged 16-year-old victim made a hand gesture popularized on TikTok that alerts people of domestic abuse. A quick-thinking motorist recognized the signal and took action.
What the TikTok hand gesture is you tuck your thumb in and you wrap your forefingers around it and you release. Tuck your thumb in, wrap your fingers around it, and release. Back and forth.
Deputy Sheriff Gilbert Achardo explained the hand signal used by the distressed teenager who was sitting beside her abductor in his vehicle.
We think that the suspect just thought that she was waving at individuals because she was in the front seat where he was.
An alert motorist saw the signal and called police, giving the dispatcher mile marker updates that allowed police to set up a roadblock and make the arrest. The signal was created by the Canadian Women's Foundation in response to a surge in domestic violence. The signal becoming increasingly popular on TikTok, but not widely known.
The use of the TikTok hand signal signifying I'm in trouble, I need help, was a groundbreaking event for us and maybe nationwide, because had she not given that signal to a motorist and had a motorist not recognize that signal, who knows where that 61-year-old man would have wound up with this 16-year-old girl.
And that teenager is now being reunited with her family in North Carolina. A good ending to a story that could have turned out so differently. Hoda?
Wow. All right, Aaron, thank you so much.
Now let's discuss the things we can do to prevent or stop these type of nefarious things that happen to our indigenous black women and children. For one is being aware. Get in the habit of being aware of your surroundings, okay, and your comings and goings. Understanding that there potentially could be someone monitoring your whereabouts, your comings and goings, your routine. That's why I stress, do not have a routine. Change it up, okay? Be unpredictable. Understand this. Other things, as far as when you out shopping, okay? Be very vigilant in your shopping. And you can easily identify someone that may be potentially following you. For an example, you in a department store, you looking at articles of clothing. And then you see someone else that's doing the same, but they're not looking at the clothing, they're staring at you. Now, I know some women may say, okay, because you're beautiful and everything, you just may be admiring, okay? One thing is to acknowledge a person, as far as what beauty or being attractive. But if that person is eyeballing you and staring, and then you keep running to that person in different parts of the store or in another store entirely, that person is following you, okay? Understand this. And understanding that you don't give a stranger trust. Never do that, okay? If you feel unsafe, then you call someone and have someone accompany you, in these different stores, okay? Now, I have a video that I want you to pay attention to, okay? This video has involved a potential robbery of a young black business owner, but due to the fact that she had a means of defense and she repelled this potentially bad situation, okay?
Alexander is in the beauty industry and runs a successful wig company. She says that she believes somebody may have had a hit on her.
This wasn't a robbery. I think it was a hit on me. I'm not even gonna lie.
Alexander are part of a nationwide trend, women getting their licenses to carry, like Mahogany Gillum in Oakland, California, who fired shots in the air after an intruder got into her house and took her car keys.
I'm petrified. I'm still not knowing. I didn't know that they had retrieved my keys from inside on top of my entry table.
This man was shot and killed by another woman who police say tried to force his way into her apartment with her 11-month-old inside. A survey by a public health researcher from Harvard University found that 21% of people who purchased a gun between January 2019 and April 2021 were black. 48% of them were women.
It's not knowing how to shoot, it's knowing when to shoot.
Major Mike Williams is a veteran and a certified gun instructor in Georgia. He says that prior to 2021, black women made up about 15% of his students. Now they make up 60%, many of them single women.
People have realized, especially in the African American community, that you are your own first responder. That if something happens in their home or neighborhood, that police, because of their diminished capacity and lower numbers of police officers, are less likely to respond to them in case of an emergency.
Sitting there, posted up in my taxi, waiting for a fare, and I see this guy arguing with this pregnant woman over a parking space.
Derek Brown is talking about this confrontation between a pregnant mom and this man that happened in the Leesburg Walmart parking lot.
It looked like it was escalating.
Felicia Russell told police she was teaching her 15-year-old daughter how to drive. They were backing out of a parking space when the guy you see here pulled up behind her and began honking his horn repeatedly. When she confronted the guy, that's when all of this happened. Brown didn't know the woman, but knew he needed to do something.
She's almost 8 months pregnant, 2 kids in the car. You know, I got daughters. I'm not going to stand by and see nothing happen to no pregnant woman like that.
While trying to resolve the argument, Brown says the other guy started yelling at him.
She said, F you. I said, F you.
Brown pulled out his gun, but eventually he put it back in the holster.
I put the gun back because I saw he was a punk. Anybody that's attacking a pregnant woman is a punk. in my eye.
Brown says the guy punched him and then he punched the guy back. A short time later, police showed up and talked to everyone involved, and no one decided to press charges. Brown says he believes the guy learned a very important lesson that day.
You look for trouble, sometime you find it.
Now, police told us that the aggressor ended up going to the hospital. We're told he needed about 2 stitches. As for that pregnant mom, we wanted to speak with her today, but because of what happened out here, her family says she was traumatized and she's been in the doctor's office all day. Now, she and her family are calling Brown a hero. Brown says police even told him that he did the right thing.
In conclusion, indigenous black women, be very cognizant of your surroundings. Be very mindful of your comings and goings. Don't be very predictable in your routines. Change it up. Okay? Have someone accompany you with your comings and goings, and when you're shopping out with your children. Okay? If you feel something wrong, then call someone to accompany you. All right? Yeah, practice self-preservation when you're out in the streets as well. Have some form of protection. Okay? Take heed to this information. All right? So I'm going to leave you in the manner in which I came, with a universal prayer. In the name of the universal creator of heaven and earth and everything in between, please bless my listeners, their families, their friends, and your true believers for when the day of reckoning takes place. For universal creator, you are all wise and all knowing, and unto you we most certainly shall return. But until then, we give you the praise and glory that's due to you from this life into the hereafter. In the name of the universal creator of heaven and earth and everything in between, in your holy name we pray that this shall be done. So again, like and share, reach one, teach one, peace, and take care.